All right. Do a volume test for me. Say something real quick.
Hello, people.
Okay, so I do have you turned down a bit, so I'm gonna turn myself down so that way we're at least equal.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, I'm a little louder because you have a lot of bass in your mic, so I need to be louder than
Bass,
you.
bass,
Yeah.
bass.
So plus I tend to change a lot when I'm talking. So, all right, we've got everything up. Let me grab my die.
Oh yeah, I should do that too.
Welcome for those who are watching on YouTube and those watching on Twitch. Welcome. I totally wasn't looking at video or other people playing D&D earlier just to get ideas, or at random people who are in just chatting because, well, for some reason I was bored. Um, I am joined tonight by Tren, the one and only, because let's be honest, no one else wants to be him.
All right.
Um, and the rest of the party has decided to go and do what they want, with Kilxius off with his wife as usual because he doesn't care about us. Agent A is asleep as usual. Zilpip, well, he's working on some new chemical balance to probably script the campaign and make me work even harder to find a new CR rating for him. And I mean, Fraz is just Fraz. He's at some sort of family event, so it's normal for him. Um, Last we left off, the party had managed to go into what was a dream sequence that Wolf was DMing. However, unfortunate due to Wolf's current timetable, we are not able to run that campaign any further at this time. Thus, I am taking back over. My To give an explanation to those watching who follow these series concurrently, which no one does, I'm guessing, because I've got 0 views on YouTube. So, we last left off with the party doing the whole thing with Wolf, and now we will be coming into a few days later. To which Aaron will be the only one awakening in her city, finding herself alone in what smells like a smoldering, smoking, burning flesh all around, underneath what looks to be or inside what looks to be a green tent of sorts, with the sounds of dwarvish chatter here and there. Many talking about, people, the recent events that have gone on, some shouting for a medic here and there, simple stuff. The most common as you wake up, Aaron. As you can kind of look around, the light being very bright at this point, even though it's a very dim candle. Um, you see around you that none of your party members are with you. You are alone, and you can't tell where you are besides being in some sort of tent. No one
I'm
seems
just.
to be paying attention to you. From what you can see on the other beds and cots, there are many dwarves, not only running about, but on these cots themselves that seem to have different types of injuries, arms missing, blood everywhere. It looks like a typical Civil War wounded tent.
Oh, fun.
Screams of agony, the usual stuff.
Yeah, amputation, typical,
hmm
typical stuff. Yeah.
Some guy walking around quoting Misna's book, and that gives you the heebie-jeebies almost immediately.
I don't blame them.
One man keeps yelling in Dwarvish, "It's my arm, not my balls!" And the doctor isn't listening. Uh, you,
Sounds about
for
right.
once in your life, thank the fact that you have none. Um, so yes, as you awaken, you're still whole, a little bit beaten up, bruised. You've got a little bit of scarring or cuts and scarring all over your body.
Of
It looks
course.
like you went through a shredder pretty good. Your armor's not, luckily not broken up, but the clothing that was underneath your simple commoner's clothing, it was shredded pretty bad from what looks like you're wearing nobleman's clothing now. That's about 5 sizes at least too large for you. Um, and yeah, you're just sitting here. You can see a little bit of blood about you, but nothing serious, nothing that you need to feel alarmed of.
Okay. So I'm just chilling in a tent.
Yes, with screams everywhere, people shouting, people running around, and bodies all around you.
All right.
What would you like to do?
I'd like to exit the tent.
All right, as you get up, everything kind of hurts. As you kind of find your feet, you finally notice that there's someone actually sitting that was sitting right above your head. There's a very large and very muscular and very angry looking dwarf who seems to be yelling orders that just suddenly starts to come to fruition as your hearing seems to also come back to a full. Sitting up so fast, you also feel a little dizzy and a little nauseous. You assume this is because you probably took a head wound at some point, as your head is also seems to be wrapped up. And you
Huh.
recognize this person. It's Tenem, but he looks a lot less angry and a lot less bloody from earlier. As he is just sitting in the chair from what looks to be above your cot and yelling at people.
Just yelling at people and giving them orders?
Yep, that's what it seems. He seems to be getting everything organized inside this. What now, as you're able to look around with the light kind of starting to dissolve a bit and everything coming into focus. This is a very large tent. This is like a small circus tent by the tell of it, and there are probably around 200 bodies inside of it.
Oh, that's nice.
Hmm.
All right. Well, uh, city's still under siege. I'm in a large ass tent. Everyone's dying.
And Tenem's sitting right there,
Tenem is sitting right there.
and you don't see any of the other members of your party.
Hmm.
So what would you like to do?
Have you seen any of my other party members?
Nope. There's not. I mean, you'd assume for someone like Machina being a Goliath, there'd be at least a rather large cot, but it seems most of the cots are pretty standard, and none of them are empty. So most of them
No,
are filled with.
I'm asking. Have you
Oh,
seen? Like, I'm
oh,
asking. Yeah.
sorry. Tenem looks to you, suddenly kind of like bewildered to notice that you're awake, with a bit of shock as his mouth drops open. He goes, um, he kind of goes to pinch his nose as it seems he's kind of fighting off a headache. You can actually see that he has a massive scar right across his chest, going down to where
Yikes.
his kidneys are. And he just looks at you and says, we haven't found the big one, um, the little white-haired chick, or." And he thinks for a second. We haven't found Kilxius or Zilpip either. But I haven't seen Zilpip since the battle begun, and Kilxius vanished at some point during the battle.
Oh.
And he looks at you and says, "We were lucky to find you. You were under about a pile of 4 high of elven corpses. I'm gonna be honest, you're lucky you kept your leg. The doctors here are really good at what they do." And as you kind of look down at your leg, you see that you have a massive cast around it.
All right.
And that's when the pain starts to shoot as you realize whatever they had you on is starting to wear off.
We're off. Got it. So I have a broken leg?
He says, broken would have been the kind way to put it. It looks like someone decided to chew on your leg, shit it out, and put it back on.
Sounds pleasant. I'm sure it'll heal.
Yeah, the clerics did a job. They fixed it to the point that they could, but they said that you needed to keep it in a cast for a few more days. Luckily, the battle's over, so we shouldn't have much else to deal with.
Who's winning?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. He looks you dead in the eye with the biggest smile on his face, and not being that totally I can't help it look. If we didn't win, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Fair enough.
Eh, we in the middle of that something happened. We had a small dwarf came out, chubby one, short red beard came out, and started attacking people. I don't know what happened to him, but he seemed to scare off most of the elves when he went into some sort of fury, and the elves decided to retreat. So,
All of them?
well, from what my men have reported, the ones inside the city are mostly dead. After a mass purification spell of some sort was cast by him and his group of clerics, the zombies that were inside are gone, most burned to ash, and those few troops that were left of the elves have been cleaned up or captured.
Huh.
Yeah. I guess the Emperor must have showed up and called a retreat. I don't blame him. His losses were probably about 10 to 1 compared to ours.
I'm just gonna chuckle at that remark right there.
However, I will admit, and you're probably not gonna like this. The
Hmm.
walls were kind of blown up. The Emperor
Oh,
kind of, yeah.
oh, the entire wall. Like,
The entire outer wall was crumbled. The Emperor apparently was spotted inside the city. Some idiot decided to challenge him to a one-on-one fight. And in his anger, he launched a massive spell that caused the ground to shake. And all I can tell you is the wall collapsed. We found Greg, and he's in a piss poor mood. He's missing 2 fingers, an ear, and he has a whole necklace of skulls. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure if they're all elvish. And that is
hmm.
my commander for you. Um, as far as the rest of what we know, Unit 34 is gone. They didn't make it. They tried a last desperate attack to push through what was left between the zombies and the High Elven troops after the walls blew up,
Hmm.
and they didn't make it. Yeah, most of the military force is gone. We don't have much left. From what my current reports are, we are probably about 5,000 strong, and that's counting those in the tents that are wounded.
Uh, that's okay. And there's
Yeah.
still fighting going on outside. Yeah.
Yeah. As you kind of get a look outside as the tent flaps kind of open, it's storming out. I mean, it's very heavy rain, which is pretty unusual as it's about midsummer at this point. Um, it's cloudy and the rain's coming down hard. This is like a cold Ohio wind and rainstorm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
To give you an idea.
Fun. Okay. Um. Hmm. So fighting's still going on.
Hmm.
It's pouring outside.
Yep. There's no fighting. You don't
Uh.
hear any fighting outside right at this point.
Oh, there's no fighting.
No.
There's no fighting.
Nope. You just hear the screams of people being amputated and worked on.
Okay. I want to exit the tent then and assess the damage.
As you start to get up, one of the dwarves kind of comes over and kind of gives you a shoulder and starts to kind of help you out as you're kind of having to walk. You don't have your weapon, you don't have your armor on, and like I said, you're wearing very loose nobleman's clothing.
Where
Um,
am I weapon and armor?
you don't see it anywhere around you.
I'm going to yell, where the fuck is my gear?
The dwarf who is giving you a shoulder looks up at you and says, "Oh, that hurt. I'm." Oh, he kind of looks at you for a second, just kind of gets squeamish a little bit. Says, we had to take it off of you after what your trousers or the plate armor that was around your leg was melded to it. He still winces with a little pain as he shakes his head a little bit. And the rest of it's inside your chambers in the main hold. Because you were injured, we didn't think you'd want to get up and fight, as you can barely walk. But I'm gonna go get you that cane so you don't have to rely on me or scream in my ear as he starts to turn and walk away.
Sounds good.
As he comes back, he comes with a simple oak cane, nothing fancy to it.
Alright, I'll take the cane and I'll start walking on out.
Alright, as you start to hobble out, the rain hits your face. It's freezing cold, but, surprisingly, it's a lot better than the heat that was inside that tent and the smell of disease that was so strong.
How is the damages?
Well, as you finally get out, you realize you're sitting in the outside of the city. Out on the battlefield you were at earlier, and you can see a pile, probably about 6 high in bodies, of both dwarven and elven corpses. More elven than dwarven. Just everywhere. They're spread about. Some are on fire, some are not. There are men looting corpses. There are men still screaming in pain as battle is being cleaned up. Um, the walls, you can see now, there are chunks of the wall just on the ground, crashed and broken, destroyed. The walls are gone. This inner city
Uh,
is, from a rough assessment, you can see is about 25 to maybe 30% completely burned down.
Is there
Um,
people working on extinguishing the fires?
the fire's out. That's the nice thing.
Oh,
None of the city is on fire at this point. There are a lot of corpses as you walk about. There's a lot of ash along the roads as you're kind of heading into the city. Um, and many of the men have started building a what looks to be a small wooden palisade that's about 6 feet tall.
okay, okay. Um, how many men do we have available? Do I
For
have available under
Tenham said about 5,000, including the wounded and severely injured.
including the wounded and severely injured? Okay, I'm
And
guessing
Tenham is
there's.
following did follow you out. He is standing behind you as you're walking.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna. We have men out there, uh, collecting the wounded and finding survivors in the city. Yes.
He looks at you and nods.
Just like okay. Um, let's see. Damaged city. Well, honestly, I think our first priority is trying to get um all of the survivors and wounded fixed up as quickly as possible and try and save as many as we can.
Tenham nods and looks to you and says, "Yeah, we've got the men scouring the city for any wounded, those still left living. Many of our clerics were killed. Apparently, one of the few that survived said that Zilpip mentioned gave an evacuation order at the at the inner hold, and so they all retreated. About 3,000 of our clerics, which is, to be honest, 99% of them, marched out into what would be probably a horde of the undead, and did not make it out."
Uh, understood. Okay.
Yes.
Do we have any soldiers with medical expertise, or at least some?
Well, we've got a few doctors that came in from the Snow Elven lands. They're big supporters of the School of Mizna, for what that's
Uh,
worth. Um,
can we tell
Reproduction's
them?
going to be a problem later, I imagine, but
Can
for the
can
time
can
being.
can we tell them no castration, please?
I've tried, but unfortunately, let's just say you're lucky you're a woman. Um, As far as it goes, we've got parties heading into the city. We started looking for any survivors we can find, and we've got people come. A lot of the farmers are coming in from the countryside, and the other towns that we have under our control, to help rebuild and repopulate. I've sent word to Dim Flame. He's sending troops to reinforce us. We should be expecting around 20,000 within the month, but it's
Okay.
slow going for right now. I've put word out that we're taking in people at this point, that we're looking for merchants, craftsmen, guildsmen, everything I can. There's an old gnome that arrived here, not shortly after the battle and everything cleared out. He's taken up roost inside one of the tall towers inside the main keep.
Didn't say anything.
I'm gonna be honest. He had a big stick. He looked scary, and he had more magic than Zilpip coming off of him. I didn't really ask questions.
All right, that sounds fine by me then.
I thought so.
Yeah.
As you guys continue walking into the city, I mean, you see what looks to be a few citizens working on getting the buildings cleared, getting wood moved, supplies are being moved. People seem to be not generally in a happy mood, but not necessarily depressed or upset, surprisingly.
All right. Well, that's good. Morale is at least okay.
hmm
Hopefully, me walking among them is
Some take
helping.
note. You don't see many familiar faces though.
Right. Yeah.
As you do continue walking in, though, you do see Greg sitting on a bench, angrily staring down into what looks to be a bucket of water, in full plate still, with his what looks to be a cannon, the barrel of the cannon sitting beside him. It looks taller than him, and he still looks just pissed off.
What's wrong, buddy?
Greg just looks at you and says, "You fuckers went from guild members to legitimately ruining my entire life. Do you understand that?"
Sounds rough.
He looks at you and he tries to give you what looks to be a middle finger, but there's no finger there anymore.
Just like,
All like the finger's gone. Like he's got his other ones down as he just points his fist up to you. It looks like he's basically giving you a fist at this point. which in
Love you
some
too, buddy.
cultures that's more of a accurate insult. Hey, my dwarves are dead. Luckily, the boy lived in his stupid boar. Uh, there's also someone here to speak to you, you asshole.
Oh, who's that?
There's he looks, he starts to think, some woman, female Fellis. Hell if I know.
Where's she at?
Last I saw her, she was in the heading towards the main keep, assessing the damages, helping the wounded, carrying out people. Not much a
Alright,
tiny cat can do.
fair enough. Alright. I guess I'll head on out over and meet them.
Yeah, don't worry about the guy who was your old guild master that you caused all this. I.
I'm,
He just kind of goes back to groaning.
I mean, if you want to go to the tent with all the Mizna doctors, you're more than welcome to.
I will castrate you.
Okay, I'll leave.
As you see him pulling out what looks to be a very wicked looking knife, Tenem just kind of pats you on the shoulder and says, I'm gonna be honest, he hasn't been in that great of a mood since losing his men.
I don't blame him. I'm sure it's hard on him.
I mean, you can't blame him. I mean, about 2 years ago, he was a guild master in a city, and he was so happy there. So, you
And
know,
now, and now he's
oh,
doing this.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, not
Yep.
worth it. Also, he's still mad at Zilpip, but that's another story, I guess. As far as what you need to know about the Fellis, I talked to her for a bit. Her name is Cathel. She's just a common blood Fellis. Not much to note on that, as far as I know.
Cat?
Um, yeah, Tabaxi. It's one of the different breeds of
Uh,
Tabaxi. They're about 2 feet tall on average. They're tiny, but they're
uh,
scared. They can be real mean. One of them managed to hold off an entire gnomish army on his own for a good while. Apparently,
impressive.
I forget his name. Something like Dibus or something like that.
Oh, wow. Well, um, do you know where they are now, or should we just head on over to the keep, like you said?
Last I heard, Cathel was at the main keep. So
All right. I suppose we'll be heading over there then.
yeah, sounds about right. Um, I'm just checking something real quick. Okay. All right. So as you continue heading to the keep, the city is in ruin. People are scared. You hear crying children on occasion. Your dizziness and nausea keeps coming back. The pain keeps coming back. Tenem helps you as she can, and the smell of burning flesh is just about everywhere. At one point, you see the head of a goose rolling as a child seems to be kicking it.
I cry.
And you hear the child laughing at the goose as it pokes it with a stick. Um, Honestly, as far as it goes, it seems to be mundane. Much of the city seems to be doing what it can to try and get everything back to normal.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that.
Alright. So yeah, as you continue heading towards the inner keep, you finally make it after about a good couple hours as you realize that Tenem has been silently casting something in the background that seems to have sped you guys up almost to an extreme, as it normally take almost a full day to get to this portion of the city, or from one portion of the city to the other. Um,
You gotta
it,
show me how to do that.
he smiles at you and says, "Well, it involves a lot of sacrifice, a lot of blood, and giving up your firstborn."
Maybe not right now.
He smiles and says, "Thought so." Uh, as you finally make it to the inner keep, you see that the inner keep's wall, or the main gate that was set up and reinforced, is completely destroyed and broken. People are walking in and out of it. The walls are really badly dented, and you can see char marks everywhere. The college is literally a pile of rubble.
Okay,
Um,
so
yes.
I'm like right outside the keep right now.
Yeah, and you can see with inside of it that yeah, the library still stands, and so does the actual keep itself.
That's nice.
Yeah, the college is gone, but
The library's still there. That's good.
yeah, that's what
They're
matters,
staying.
right?
That's what matters. The Reservoir of Books.
And you can see that there are two people that of note. I mean, usually dwarven soldiers running in and out. Some carrying messages, some carrying equipment, some carrying dead people. And
Sounds about right.
you
Okay.
can still see the burning piles all around. It looks like inside someone basically decided to let off a giant fireball and just scorched all of the walls on the inner area.
Zilpip.
Zilpip does. You don't remember Zilpip ever having this magnitude of ability. Um, as the walls went from a pure marble white to a stained black, they are no longer the pretty color that they used to be. The gold even itself has seems to melted into tears, almost
Hmm.
draping down the wall.
Hmm.
As you look in, you can see two figures in note. One looks to be a very old gnome, a very long white beard, a very gnarled staff in his hand, and seems to kind of walk with almost like a hunch. And the other seems to be a very short, tiny figure in simple robes, um, with a hood covering over their head. They seem to be about 2 feet tall, roughly, and the two seem to be chatting about something or other.
Alright, I'll walk on up to them and say, what can I do you for?
The other man looks at you and says, "Well, I'll introduce myself, I guess. I am Zelm." And suddenly the remembrance of the dream you had earlier comes to memory of a man being yelled at by his mother. Um, Zelm looks to you and smiles and says, I am here mostly. Wait, are you still there, Trent?
Yeah, I'm still
Okay.
there. I'm there.
And he says, I am the one who gave you the message before everything happened. And this little fellow, well, female fellow, is Cathel, your new personal bodyguard and tutor.
Bodyguard.
And
Tutor. Wait.
she just smiles and says, "Ah, how are you doing?"
Fantastic. Why are you doing this for me? Why? Huh?
And Zelm kind of goes, as she starts to speak, Zelm kind of puts a hand on her head and pats her. As, well, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's something in the future you're going to want this little friend for. She will act as your new steward for the while you're away on missions and completing the required request before it arrives. And as far as I'm concerned, she will act as the tutor to any children you are expecting in the future. And yeah, it gives you a bit of a smile.
I catch, you know. Why are you doing this for me? Is there any catch?
Me or the little one here?
Uh, I mean, I guess for the both of you.
Well, I don't want to die, I'll be honest. That's why I'm here, to help you. It's also why I set Rejected Potential on their way to also assist you. They are currently, I believe, heading to either the Tiefling lands or to deal with friends of the Little Changeling. They have been tasked with gathering you allies. There's
Hmm,
a great evil to come, but that is to be spoken of later, when more of your friends have gathered.
of course.
And Cathel looks at you, looks up and smiles with a very happy. This looks like a little kitten from when you grew up in the Dwarven lands. I mean, she is like a large kitten, with a very tabby-looking fur of gray and black design, with a little bit of white tuff on her chin, as she has with her orange eyes, and she just smiles at you very happily and goes, I just want to help out, and I owe Zelma a few favors. I'm also looking for someone, but for the time being, my job is to assist you, as I owe this man a favor. Plus, and then as she's about to speak, Tenem looks at her and says, "You kind of saved her life." You just kind of get interrupts her, and she looks at you and goes, "Aye, that I was caught. I was captured by one of the elves on the way here, and they were using me as bit of a worker. Let's go with." And she kind
Uh,
of looks at you, and she looks at you and says, "Not like that. Not like
oh,
that.
oh, oh, oh,
I
okay, okay.
that giant crystal thing. Me and a few of my fellow clan got caught, and we are forced to drag the damn thing. Um,
Oh,
One of your friends managed to break it before it was before they evacuated, and thanks to that, I was let loose from the cages. I figure I owe you. I don't know where the one is that broke it, but as far as I'm concerned, from what I've been told by the large fat one behind you, as she motions to Tenem. And Tenem kind of gives a bit of a scowl. She goes, I figured I would help out, and I hear someone might be expecting in the future, and I know it might not believe it, but I was a nurse's maid for the entire clan
Huh.
and worked as the clan mother. So a lot of my job was making sure that the children were taken care of and given the right roles, as is required of my clan. So this seems like a safer job than going home. She looks around the city a bit, looking out at the burning pile of bodies and such. Much safer than home.
Well, I'm just gonna be shocked by that statement. Well, you're more than welcome to stay here as long as you want.
And of course, you'll be paying me my wages as
Of
expected.
course. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, of
okay.
course, of course, of course.
So she kind of looks at you and smiles. So, what are we expecting? Boy, girl?
No idea.
Oh. And she looks up at Zelm, and Zelm just kind of gives a wry smile. Not yet. Anyways, as Zelm continues, I am here mostly because I don't know. Have you spoken to Zilpip since the siege begun?
I haven't seen any of my members.
That explains it. Well, he looks to Tenem and kind of realizes something's going on and says, "You do realize it's been about 3 days since the siege ended, right?"
Wait, what?
Yeah, you've been knocked out for a while.
That
Anyways,
probably would have been a good thing to start off with.
well, not my job. That's Tenem's, and Tenem just kind of sheepishly starts to whistle and walk away.
Not, you're just still staying here. Come on.
I'm good. I'll catch you.
Nope, nope, nope,
I
nope.
see.
Stay here.
I think I see my brother X. He starts to slowly jog away. For an ex-fat man, he moves pretty quickly. You are now alone with Zelm and Cathel, as Cathel continues to find something interesting on her boots. Zelm continues and says, "Well, my bad news is because of your friend and party leader. Uh, there's a good chance that if you don't win what's coming up, we will be facing an epidemic of the worst design. Not only of disease, but of the fact that, how do I explain it? Magic and the gods and everything is broken.
Sounds about right.
The High King is no longer in the position he was. He no longer runs everything with the new gods coming to power. The Heli and the Helio have started a campaign which they have magic much stronger and more powerful than even Zilpip would understand. And they are pushing to invade what was the lands of Silencia. The problem with that being that they have more magic and they plan to enslave every magical being and shove them into towers and basically turn them into giant batteries, if you will.
Oh, the
Uh,
Matrix. That's nice.
yeah. And enslave all those who don't know use magic to better enhance their own noble houses. So we expect the invasion to happen within the next couple of years, and that's why I've tasked you a lot with gathering allies, as this is what I've seen in the future. Bloody enslavement. In which case, if it comes true, you'll know, but I can't tell you too much about that.
Alright. Well,
Oh, also, good news. Dragons are back. That's another fantastic note I found.
that's
As he just
oh,
kind of looks about.
everything's just getting better and better. You just keep adding on to the Sunday.
Oh, if you want even better news, the Emperor escaped. His forces are diminished, but he's decided to offer an armistice, or a wait peace, if you will, for the time being.
How long?
Long enough for him to get his forces back in power, and long enough for me to send negotiations to try and convince him that you make a better ally than enemy with the coming forces. Good news, you might be fighting side by side with your enemy. I know you look forward to that.
Uh, Whatever needs to be done.
Well, considering these creatures contain magic of 11th level or higher.
Okay, yep, yep. You don't need to say more. Okay.
Their nobles have even mastered how to become immortal, regenerate their age, regenerate common soldiers. He looks at you to put a commonality to it. Their weakest soldiers are probably on the same skill as you are right now.
Okay, we're going to just. Yep.
And so I've tasked E2 with going and gathering more allies. We'll see what that comes, but the odds aren't in our favor.
Sounds like we need a bit of a crusade.
He smiles and says, "Child, you wouldn't be able to crusade if you had 100,000 troops against this army. But you're not wrong. The holy orders are gathering. The gods are preparing for a massive war. And what the world will come to will be settled in the next 4 years.
Sounds pleasant.
Yeah, and you've picked the perfect flippin' city for it because this is where it's all gonna happen."
Of course.
hmm I hope you're not attached to those walls.
Not anymore.
He pulls out a flask from his jacket and offers it to you.
Thanks. I drink the flask. Yep, all of it. All
As you
just
open it and start to drink into it, it's got a sweet honey taste, but it's a little bit stronger than what you'd expect to be the typical mead. It seems to be almost a honeyed rum as you start to drink it. The pain starts to go away, but the nausea starts to kick up as you drink.
okay. Done with the drink.
He looks at you, nods, and starts to down it as well, and says, "We've got much to talk about and much more to deal with," as he starts to kind of walk into the keep itself, heading towards what looks to be the main war room.
Sounds good. I walk along with him, and I'm sure the cat is coming
Oh,
as well.
Cathel is like following you, watching you, trying to figure out what's going on. She's very happy and kind of walks with a skip, but also has to move a little faster to keep up with your guys' stride.
Yeah, of course, of course.
As you start to get a notice of Cathel, though, you do realize something that's kind of interesting. Although she is wearing a cloak, she's wearing full plate, and of specific design to her size, and seems to be carrying a symbol of some sort around her neck.
What's that you got around your neck?
Cathel smiles at you, just with a bit, almost brightening up the room as her teeth are so white, and she goes, "Ah, this is to the Connor, the Undying. He's a god I worship."
Oh, likewise. I just point at my noose around my neck.
She looks at you for a second with a little bit of a worry and says, "You know, I know we all have our own interests in the bedroom, but isn't it a little far to go walking around with
No,
something like that?"
no. It's not a bedroom thing. It was given to me by him.
She kind of climbs up onto your shoulder for a second. She's actually surprisingly light, as she does so. And she kind of whispers in your ear and says, "Does the the guy this is there a guy that makes you? Is he
No,
big
no,
into? Are you someone's servant?" She just kind
no,
of looks you in the eyes.
no, no,
With she at this point, you can almost tell she's blushing. She goes,
nope,
are you
nope,
sure? I
nope.
mean,
Positive.
that's.
Yep, nope,
I had a
nope.
sister who was really into this."
The noose is not anything relating to the bedroom.
And she just kind of pats you on the head. She says, "If you say so, I don't judge." And she climbs back down and continues merrily skipping. So, as you finally make it in the room after that very awkward conversation, you see inside, or you finally make it into the room, and the only person you actually find that's in there other than Zum is there is a very punctured body of John in his original changeling form,
Oh,
with puncture wounds all over.
is there a soldier nearby?
There are no soldiers in the war room. But it looks like someone put John there. He's been sat up there.
Oh,
And Zelm looks to you and says, don't worry about him. I'm using that.
wait.
Not for the nefarious reasons. He's got good intel, and he still works as a very good spy.
Huh?
Oh, Zilpip didn't mention it to you. That's right. I've mastered not only the same magics as him, but also necromancy.
Oh, that's Nice. Okay.
Hmm.
Yep.
And even zombies can change. It's quite
Can
useful.
can we preserve him in a pickle jar?
He's already very well preserved by the looks of it, though you do notice that his mouth is sewed shut.
That seems counterintuitive.
Zelm looks at you and says, "Actually, no. With a spell I have set up, he can communicate only with me.
Oh.
So this
Okay.
way, he will never be able to communicate with others.
Huh.
Good, useful body. Now, and he looks down, and you see this massive map is laid out that kind of almost changes with the design. He says, "All right, so here's the biggest issue. As the map kind of changes over, you start to see the different countries, and you see a giant black splotch all over what looks to be used to be portions of Encremia's a map where the Heliovoli and the Heli and the Helio territories are. Because these black sections are our enemies. To give you an idea, and due to some of the issues, you can see as the territory where the Knolls and Crimea used to be now blackens. The Knolls are on their way, so that's good news. We do have reinforcements. The dwarves have decided to the Vedan have decided to completely retreat into their territories and are fighting the Heli. The orcs have completely of their territories have completely retreated, and the Nords are siding with the Heli. So the
Of course
Voli
they are. Okay.
have reached out to me, but there's a good chance that they may be more have their own issues with the new break into the territories of Abaddon. You would
Well,
know it as Limbo in a
we're
common term.
more than accepting of bodies, so if any of them want to come on over here.
Well, the problem is apparently there are very strong demons that live in Abaddon and have taken up territory in those and have been fighting the Voli, and the Voli are kind of having to deal with that. There's apparently a massive push in that situation. If we can convince the Voli to come here, they are natural born soldiers and have been fighting the Heli and the Helio for longer than both me or you have been alive, and are very well versed in fighting them, apparently.
Hmm.
You would know them. Both the two races are, in common, I guess, would be considered Asimar.
Oh,
Two sides of the different of Asimar of Encremia. Apparently, they take their magic instead from the gods. They take theirs from dragons. Always good to involve dragons. As he sips from the flask.
of course.
After that, uh, the Storming Empire, he kind of asphyxiates to the middle of the map, doesn't like us. But Uruk Stormclaw has asked that you lot go and meet with him. He wishes to negotiate, but only in exchange that you negotiate with Kilxius. Apparently, he sees that as he wants to personally talk to this man.
Isn't that the man that asked to come on over and set up a new home? Or
No,
is
that
that
would be the Knolls you're thinking of that came here.
okay? Storm, huh?
The Storming
Have the
Empire is the orcs, the black and green orcs that have come together under Stormclaw. I think its first name's Uruk, but I'm not. Don't quote me on that.
all right.
But he wishes to speak to Kilxius first. I guess those two have a past.
Hmm.
Funny enough, you wouldn't believe it, but those two apparently fought against each other at the very beginning of his adventures. Who would have
Well,
thought?
huh. Well, yeah, okay. I'll be sure to mention that to him.
Hmm. As far as the dwarves go, the mountain dwarves and the hill dwarves are currently fighting against the Alethians, led by the High Queen. So, good luck on that one. You can figure that out. You're more dwarvish than I am. Um,
Lathians and what? Dwarf?
oh yes, the High Queen. You haven't heard of her, I imagine. She's a very, very angry woman who hates the High King and hates everything to do with him, and has invaded the Duragar lands, the Dark Dwarves, for those who speak Common, and basically managed to enslave or wipe them out. Yeah, good news.
Overall, it just sounds like the world's honestly kind of going to hell.
Yeah, I think you got the best lit of it. The only thing you had to deal with were elves, and at least the worst they were gonna do was eat you.
Sounds preferable to this. Honestly, not gonna lie.
Cathel kind of looks up at the table and says, "We're fucked." uh, as Zelm continues, he says, the Tiefling lands have fallen. From what all I've heard, the Rakshasa invaded them and wiped them out. A small resistance force has been created. I've sent rejected potential to deal with that. No guarantees. I don't know what to tell you of the gnomes, the dragonborn, the red orcs. I do know that Kilxius should go there, as from what I've seen and what I told him. The red orcs need a king, and he will be set to do it. I can't tell you how, but he is required to do that. Um, Zilpip, last I heard, was dealing on the island of the Rakshasa, and I told him he needed to find out the truth of the High King. There's information he needs to gather that could be very advantageous to us to convince the High King and his holy orders to basically serve us in the future war. Problem is, there's a good chance he might die. Although, I don't see that as a problem. You might. He looks at you and he says, I hope you're taking note on all this, because I'm not planning to repeat this in the future. Otherwise, as far as what you can do, and that's probably more of what you're interested in. No more doom and gloom. And Kithel looks at you, just looks at Zelm and says, no more doom and gloom. The world's falling apart. I've seen more organization amongst the clans. As she continues to just kind of look at both of you like you're completely nuts. And Zelm continues, says, the only task I have of you is there's an item that I think might be of use to you and your party. Well, many items. You are familiar with the Bloodied Age, I assume?
No.
Oh, good. Uneducated. That's my favorite kind of hero. Oh, it reminds me of so many. Dragon's Gate is built on top of an old elven stronghold. You're familiar with that, I assume?
Yes.
It's also built on top of an old gnoll stronghold. You're familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So there are about 6 layers beneath us of city.
What the fuck?
Yeah, right? Whoever built this city was a genius. Um, I haven't sealed up anything at this point, but from what I've done on my research, and my research, let's be honest, is completely accurate 100% of the time, is that there's an entire arsenal of very powerful weapons, armor, and
There's a
equipment,
door.
and magical crap
There's the door.
inside the Elven city, as well as inside the Knoll city of old magic. Not the crappy stuff we use today, but old magic.
Oh yes. Oh 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 yes.
There's one catch, of course.
Zombies.
Lots of them. Very angry, very hungry. And sadly, not just that. But imagine if you were really good and very intelligent. What would you do with a city that didn't plan to let be above ground and turn into a tomb?
Become a lich.
Oh no, you don't have to worry about that. Luckily,
Oh, thank
I've
God.
made sure there's no powerful magic underneath in that regard. But there's a lot of traps. Like, I'll be honest, you're fucked. But you should still go down there because there's a vault that could arm an army of almost 40,000 with magical gear equal to what you're wearing now. Well, maybe not you, but a better soldier.
Huh.
And it's in perfect condition from what I can sense.
What the? Okay. That sounds like a literal. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Although it's on the 6th level.
Dungeon
And,
crawl.
huh? He looks at you and smiles and says, ah, this reminds me of a time I met the Time Fornicators and got to hear of Toutler's story and what happened with that great lich he loved so much. Did he ever? Did you ever get to hear the tales of Toutler?
No, I don't. Who's
So
Toddler?
he is a dragonborn who traveled with the time fornicators. You might know one of them, King Lauger, the human king.
Yeah, I know that.
Um,
Okay.
or Logolthus, the god of hate, evil. So I'm just kind of skips over. There's a few others, but they're not worth a note. Um,
Okay.
and so Toutler, he built a guild on top of a old tomb with about 13 liches inside of it. Now, as you can imagine, liches love when you build on top of their tombs.
I mean,
And
I'm
so
about it.
he
Free,
uh
free, free souls.
he decided to go down with his party and travel beneath, and he ran into hordes of zombies, flesh golems, and the like. And he had a chance apparently that he tells me, and he loves to tell the story, that he could have gone through the entire thing peacefully without ever having to fight a single person and gotten the whole treasure hoard to himself if he hadn't done one mistake. In his
What's the mistake?
bravado and his youth, he decided to be the man of the hour and tell this what the lich who guarded the entrance, the only one he had to convince that he wasn't there to hurt anything or desecrate anything, and he decided to tell it he was its god.
Sounds like he's a genius.
He nearly killed himself. In fact, if it wasn't for King Lauger, he'd be dead right now.
Huh.
Apparently, they even lost an elven wizard that traveled with them, but to be fair, I hear that wasn't much of a loss, seeing how whiny he was. Um, but yes. So apparently it didn't work out very well, as he ended up having to fight a copper dragon, getting his ass kicked by ancient gods, and now he's an emperor of an entire continent.
How I envy him.
Do you really? You got one city and look what you did to it. You think you could run an empire?
Yes,
Yeah.
I blame the elves.
Yeah. Well, who took an elven city?
The elves.
Selm just looks at you and says, I've got a dead body right here I can reanimate to tell you how stupid you are.
I'm good.
Thought so. As far as it goes, we're still looking for the rest of your party, but I recommend you head beneath first, or you go catch up with Zopip. If you decide you and the party decide that you want to go meet with Zopip, once they're found, assuming they're alive, I will teleport you myself to him. His demon female is working as my personal secretary currently. And Pipliz, who is somewhere about, has been given orders by me to continue or to go and excavate Zilpip's old um, laboratory. Let's go with. And get it up in working order again, as we're gonna need as much help as we can get, and to bring me the corpses of anyone who died, so I can reanimate them and put them back to slave work.
Sounds good.
Mm. There's 2 apprentices of his that we actually need. But that's regardless. Do you have any requests or questions for me?
Request or questions?
I can't make you
Um,
immortal before you ask.
that's fine. Uh,
I'm not
hmm.
going to sleep with you either. You're a little
What's it
young
go?
for my taste. And Cathel you can see her getting really squeamish at the thought of you two.
How young? How many? How long? How much longer? We talking?
Zome looks at you and says, I am older than your great great grand ancestors.
So a year?
Don't make me enslave you.
I'm good.
Now, questions or requests?
Um, huh.
Cathel just looks at you like expectedly.
The keys are turning.
She looks at you, kind of climbs up onto your shoulders, whispers, You're not very bright, are you?
The gears are turning. Um, yeah, no questions. I'm good.
Zelm looks at you and says, "Good. Then I'll be taking the tallest tower as my new position. I will
Sounds
be
good.
retiring, and Cathel there will be your new steward until, as you stated, you would have a council put in charge. Until we've dealt with the future issues, I recommend you stay as sole ruler. However, Cathel will act as your hand."
Sounds good.
And Cathel nods and
Just
says, "Hi! I can't wait! I'll have to tell all my cousins and bring them here. You know, I've got four." And she starts just going on and on about her homeland.
I'm very interested. Can't wait. Can't wait to hear.
She goes, yes, let's get you to bed. By the looks of you, you're still really rough around the edges. You've got a few days.
I think my skin was melted off on my leg. I'm not sure.
Flesh wound. You know, a brother of mine had that happen in the Great Wars. It did happen." And she starts to kind of lead you out of the room while Zelm just sits there contemplating. All right, so as you start to walk out, anything you want to do before you retire for the evening and return to your room to find clothes that actually might fit you?
um.
You still see guards running about, clearing bodies of all sorts, sweeping, talking.
Okay. Well, let's see. Have I heard any word from the Snow Elves allied us? Did they not?
Yeah, from what Tenem had told you earlier, that Dimflame is sending you reinforcements of snow elves.
Is he also sending materials in order to help supply and rebuild the city?
Assumedly, yeah.
Okay.
Because he is technically your vassal, and the towns he has set up have become very prosperous in both iron mining as well as excavating the tombs.
Hmm. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's honestly all. I don't
Uh,
really have anything in particular I want to do.
okay, then that is where we will pause session for tonight. You got
Sweet.
some good information. You learned that everything sucks and that everyone knows you're getting pregnant but you. Thank you all for watching on D&D for this D&D session. Next time we should have the rest of the party back. Tomorrow we do have Rejected Potential session, so look forward to that as they go and try and gain Aaron as many allies or enemies as possible. Uh,
More or less.
and we shall see you tomorrow at 2:30 PST for those watching now. Thank you all, and have a good night.